YouTube. Got a windy day out here. Sorry for the audio quality. I'll try and make this video as short as possible. So, to continue on yesterday's conversation about creativity, I feel that creativity is something that is very spontaneous. And if you think about it through the lens of that you're always trying to create, it brings up the question, what are you trying to create? And another layer is also, what does it mean to create? So if you think about creation as bringing something new into being, you also have to understand that the components that you use to create are tangible objects, or if it's an idea, they could be subjective thoughts, processes, things that have some sort of inherent nature to them. So if you think of like an alchemical process, it's like you bring together certain elements and then you have your net result, right? If it's a painting, you bring together different colors, and that is the end result, the painting. So you realize that there are certain tools, there are items that are necessary to create. Now, the thing about it is that it's obviously not done in a mechanical way. There's not a robotic process to creation. There's, if it were, AI would be creating the best sorts of music. AI would be creating the best sorts of literature, but you don't ever see a book that's written by AI, right? And so I think it's important to really think about creation through the lens of there's something deeper than just these tools at play. And I think that's the human spirit. So if you think of the human spirit as being the genesis of creation, it makes a lot more sense that the best creators are the ones who are in touch with their unconscious reality. And that unconscious is what's feeding the creative process. The problem is that the unconscious is such a mysterious thing that most people are not in tune with it, one. And to be able to be in tune with the unconscious is a very difficult process because it requires a certain viewpoint about life and it requires a certain way of being related to oneself and the external world, which I got into a little bit on yesterday's video. So if we take it from the viewpoint that if you want to be more creative in your life, it means relating to life and relating to yourself in a certain manner. The question is, what is it that you can do to be in that modality? And I was talking a little bit yesterday about space and how the space that you're in your physical life plays a big role in your creative prowess in that modality. And I talked a little bit a week ago about your mentality, because I also believe your mentality plays a big role. Because if you are caught in your feelings of unworthiness or self-esteem, that can affect your ability to put yourself out there and just mess around because the creative process is a very messy one. And oftentimes we don't know what we're doing until you sort of find yourself there at the end of the day. So this idea of experimentation, right? And I think creating a connection between you and your inner artist, right? Harnessing your creative power requires an ability to be uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable with not knowing. You have to be uncomfortable with not knowing answers to certain problems. Understanding that problems, they're not going to be solved in an analytic fashion. They're not going to be solved today, tomorrow. You might sit on something, never think about it logically for 6 months, and then it'll just pop into your head and it'll be like, that's the project that I need to be doing. That's the sort of thing that I need to create. And so I think you can think about it on those levels. You can think about one, the creative process is one that entails patience. Deep level of patience. 2, it requires ruminating on something. I think the more that you are patient and you allow that voice to speak into you, right? And you're attentive to that voice and to that idea, right? The more that you're going to allow that expression. So first, the patience, but two, the rumination and attention is what I would say. So perhaps attention more so is what's important to harnessing that energy. And then three, understanding that the process of iteration. And what iteration is it's the ability to go from a creative modality to an analytic modality. And what I mean by that is you really have this sort of outburst of energy, which is like, oh, I'm creating. I'm putting out there. And then you look at it and you're like, well, that's pretty crappy. I had a lot of creative energy, but not all of the content I created was good. Now you go back to that content, whatever it was. You were writing something, you were playing with Play-Doh, I don't know. Now you need to start to carve, right? Or you need to start to edit. Then you're like, well, there's some gaps here, there's some things to fill, so you go back and you add some more. And so really the creative process is one of iteration. There's a lot of adding, subtracting, and it's this constant dialogue between the unconscious and the conscious, between the spontaneous energy and the more logical, like, that doesn't really fit, let me take that out. So once you understand that, you have patience, you have inner and outer attentiveness to your inner world and outer world, and then you also have iteration, which is the process of creation and subtraction. Or rather creation and analytic, more logical thinking. And then we could also add on to this, not feeling like you're failing, which is the willingness to participate in the creative process, which I don't really even add amongst that because that should already be a given. If you are going to embark on the creative journey, it should already be a given that you are willing to make mistakes, that you're willing to go awry, because oftentimes that you find yourself in the creative thing that you wanted, not because you wanted that thing, but because you were just solely focused on the expression. You see, nobody in this in doing creative work sets out for a net goal and has the picture of what they're trying to accomplish 100%, right? If anything, where you find yourself at by the end of your project or your experiment or whatever happens along the way. You discover along the way. Otherwise, it wouldn't be creation. So, and this also brings up to mind, like, well, if that creativity entails experimentation in its very essence, and you see this amongst artists everywhere, right? Like bands who make songs, artists who paint. If you look at abstract paintings, like, and you're realistic with yourself, can you really say that they had that intuition of the outcome of their painting before? No, but they started splattering paint and they were like, oh, I feel this, I feel that, and then boom. And it's oftentimes why artists are creating things that they can't logically and coherently put together in words. And I think those are all the elements from the artist side. But like, you can also think about it not just from an artist side, but like people who are working in career, more desk jobs, or even a field that is somewhere in between, like architecture, where it involves some sort of creativity, but it also involves some sort of coherence to like a logical structure, right? They still have to apply this sort of creativity to their careers, to the things that they're doing with their lives. So there's a structure and a frame that they have to work in. And within that structure and frame, that's where they apply creativity. So that really requires an ability to be like objectively present in like what their net outcome is, but also like within those boundaries to be playful, and that in of itself is a skill. So I will leave you guys with those sort of 4 processes: patience, attentiveness, iteration, which is the ability to create and be analytic and going back and forth and undulating between those, and 4, openness. And I think those 4, if you have those, based on the assumption that you are going to create, that you're not going to be caught up in introjected feelings of unworthiness, I think those will get you very, very far in the creative process. I hope that was helpful for some people out there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will be coming back with some more daily content. Talk to you guys next time.